Folks, welcome back into the 7 financial blind spots. Steve, this is a big one, and I'm guilty of this. I think everybody is a little bit in their life. Procrastination, putting things off that we know we should be doing.
Right, and people put off things that they think are difficult.
Yes.
And the reason they think they're difficult is because they build them up in their head to be some invisible enemy that is much larger than it really is.
You're right. You can work yourself into a lather worrying about some stuff that it's probably not as difficult as you think it is either.
No, absolutely. And what procrastination does, in a nutshell, is it causes you to lose control over your situation.
Yeah.
And you can see this in financial planning, but you also see it like with a decision to downsize. And so I'll give you a real life example from my own parents.
Cool.
Right? So my parents probably needed to downsize about 10 years before they did.
Okay.
But my dad refused to because he's kind of a hoarder.
Yeah.
Well, no, he's not kind of a hoarder.
Kind of.
He's definitely a hoarder.
Okay.
And so he did not want to sell the house because he had
all his stuff.
Every inch of the basement filled and the attic and the crawl space and all of that stuff.
He wasn't looking forward to having to pack.
Right. And so when we actually went into contract on the house, now it's time to get rid of the stuff.
Yep.
And so we had a big dumpster outside, and it was myself, my 3 siblings, and 6 of my cousins cleaning out stuff. And my father was obsessing, don't throw this away. Don't.
He wants that to kick him out of the house.
Yeah, throwing tantrums like a 2-year-old. It got really ugly. But the anger was not about us throwing the stuff away. It was because he lost control of the ability to control what was kept and what wasn't.
Correct.
Because he procrastinated and waited. And it's the same thing with your financial plan. If you don't have a plan and you just go into retirement with hope and a prayer is not a financial plan.
Not a strategy.
Yeah, so you need to have a cohesive strategy and a roadmap to what you want to do.
Yeah, the roadmap's important, isn't it? I mean, just making sure to diagram out what's going to happen. And it's not as complex as a lot of people are worried about. Especially now, it's pretty simple. If someone calls you and says, Steve, I want a retirement plan, what are the steps you go through on that?
So we do 2 consultations before we even deliver a plan.
Right.
And so that first consultation, we actually spend most of the time not looking at the numbers. It's just telling me your story, what you want your retirement to look like, what are some of the things that you're doing now, what are some of the things you see yourself doing.
Right.
And so the way I've always explained my process, and I've done this for the last 20 plus years, I've explained my process this way, is 4 steps. So the first step, I usually use a picture of Mark Twain, because I want to hear your story. Right? Mark Twain, obviously.
Story, yeah. Yep.
Obviously a good storyteller.
Yep.
Second picture I usually show is Albert Einstein. So after I heard your story, we have to look at the numbers to make sure, we have to crunch all the numbers to make sure that it's attainable what you want to do.
Right.
Right? And if it's not, then we need to make adjustments and we have to figure which levers to pull.
Absolutely.
And then the third step would be to come back with independent objective advice. Maybe I'll start using a picture of you, but I use a picture of Dr. Phil.
Oh, Dr. Phil. Might be called the Dr. Phil of financial, so there you go.
And then the fourth and most critical step of my process is ongoing review. So this is the part that people they overlook most of the time. And so when you're planning for retirement, your engagement with your advisor is not that important, or not as important as in retirement. Why?
Right.
Because
you're not there yet.
Yeah, and the changes that happen in your life in retirement come more rapid fire, number one, and they impact you more because you don't have the ability to go out and make the money again.
Correct. So adjustments are important at that time.
Right, so you want to be revisiting your plan and making adjustments on the ground. You also want to be tracking your spending. And so the wonderful thing about technology is with aggregator tools where you can link all of your credit cards and bank accounts.
You can see everything.
You can see what you have coming in deposits and what's going out of the door. So you're making decisions on real-time data.
Correct.
On the ground as opposed to just pie in the sky stuff.
And so, real time, really happening. So when you talk about like in-game adjustments, sort of like football coaches at halftime make an adjustment, or you see them on the sidelines looking at the pictures that they've taken from above and trying to counteract what the other team's doing. Right. Same thing in retirement. You have to make sure to do the best thing for yourself and ongoing. It's a living, breathing thing. It's not a one-time thing. It's ongoing. Every quarter or every year or whatever, meeting with your advisor, making sure that you're on the same track still.
Right. It's to stick with your coach analogy. If you think about like a Bill Belichick, he went into that Atlanta Super Bowl down however much at the half, but he was able to make adjustments and get important. And so. Right. And you could be in that same situation in your own life where you maybe are behind at halftime, but if you do the things, it's all about which levers you decide to pull.
Yeah. It's almost like packing a suitcase for a vacation. You need to make sure you have the right things in that suitcase. And after you go on one vacation and you're going the wrong way, you get a bigger suitcase.
Right,
or a smaller one in your dad's case.
Yes. Yeah, my dad definitely needs a smaller suitcase.
Folks, if you want your very own plan, all you have to do is call Steve and his team right now. The number is 800-597-4579.